Well, I got started at MSU way back when, doing a lot of summer Highland theater, or Highland summer theater, and then I couldn't think of anywhere better to go to college because I knew that the program was solid and that the price was definitely right for the quality of the program that I was coming for. And I think what I enjoyed most about being here at MSU was that it was very experience-based for myself. There was the classes, and then, you know, they broke down the different styles of acting and things like that, but it was how many shows you could be in a year, to work with different directors, with different styles, with different actors, and different shows like that, where when I did eventually graduate and get up in the cities where I first started out, I felt comfortable in many different working situations. I moved up to Climb for a little bit, Climb Theater, and they do regional touring around to different schools and things like that, education about drug use prevention, bullying prevention. And then after that year, I just spent a year doing random dinner theater and the like, and what was it? I can't think of the theater. I did a show called Left Hand Singing, and that was probably one of the better shows that I got to do in the Twin Cities before coming back here for one final Highland Summer Theater, and then off I went to New York. Spent about a year in New York doing smaller theater productions until I finally got a tour of The Wizard of Oz with Network's touring company. And that was 9 months of my life on the road, which was a huge learning experience, but really, really exciting. I felt a little old comparatively because most of the people that were there were like 21, 22, 23, and it was pretty much myself, the Scarecrow, and the Lion that were of my age range, other than the Wizard and the Witch, who were much older than us. So that was an excellent experience, but then after 9 months of doing the same show, you get really burnt out. So I decided to kind of chill out on theater for a little bit, just kind of make some money and rest for like 2 months or so before getting back into theater. Did a Christmas show and then a children's show called Pinkalicious, which is based on a children's book. They made a musical version of it, and I did that for a couple of months before coming back here for a long-term summer stay between Mr. Perry Thrun's wedding and then the Minnesota Fringe, which I did a show with Ben T.G. and Bobby and the whole mechanical division, and then a show that I had written called Shoguns with a bunch of other MSU alumni, Jason Kruger, Claire Lloyd, pretty awesome group of people. But back at the beginning of the summer, I decided just to throw my hat in the ring for Evil Dead the Musical, and they seemed to like me, so I think EJ actually mentioned that they were doing it, and I've been following this show ever since the production came out in Canada, and had I been able to afford a trip to Canada to go see this show, I would have gone to go see it. And then the show actually closed off-Broadway a week before we moved out to New York. So that was heartbreaking as well. So when I heard that it was going to be happening in Minnesota and pretty close to the trip that we were already going to be taking here, I definitely wanted to take that chance. Well, I've been obsessed with Evil Dead for a very long time, and I think it just popped up on some forum that they were making a musical of the Evil Dead series, and I was extremely excited because we had just done Cannibal with Mechanical Division up in the cities, and I posted Ben T.G. the link. I'm like, we got to do this next. This is going to be huge. And he said he already knew about it. He was trying to get the rights to it, but for some reason they weren't selling the rights, and obviously it was because they were mounting the off-Broadway production. From the beginning of knowing the musical, I've always wanted to be Ash since seeing the movie. It's such a ridiculous role because he's so cowardly and so heroic at the same time. He can somehow embody both of those Like he'll hide up until the point where he's forced to finally fight, and then he becomes like the biggest, hardcore person you've ever encountered in a battle. So I've always wanted to try and audition for the part of Ash, and I thought that maybe the odds might be slightly more in my favor in the Twin Cities, just because statistically there's not as many people that are going to be auditioning for the role. So once I saw the show, I knew that's what I was going to be shooting for. Well, the basic storyline of the musical is it takes the characters from Evil Dead 1, and beyond those characters, it doesn't take a whole lot more. There's a few plot points that are shared with Evil Dead 1 and Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 2 being a remake of Evil Dead 1 with a bigger budget and many fewer characters. But then from that point, it takes most of the plot of Evil Dead 2 and then sprinkles just a tiny little bit of Army of Darkness in it at the end there, with some of the better lines from Army of Darkness. And then the director, luckily, knowing I was a huge fanboy of the series, let me throw a few more lines as ad-libs in, just because, as an audience member, I would have been disappointed had those lines not been in there. The songs definitely come out of the plot, but they're still ridiculous when they pop up. Due to the slapsticky nature, though, it doesn't seem as ridiculous as a lot of the other kind of horror musicals, like Sweeney Todd. It seems kind of natural because we're already joking around. Again, there's a number called Bit Part Demon, and it's all about the feelings that one of the demons have that's basically cannon fodder. This demon's job is to stand around and get shot by the hero, and he has absolutely no chance of killing the hero because he's just there so that the hero can deliver a one-liner. But in this show, the Bit Part Demon gets pulled out, and we get to meet that character, and he sings about how terrible it is to be a Bit Part Demon. As of this moment, we haven't worked with any of the blood yet because, just budget-wise speaking, there is a ton of blood that happens in this show. And it doesn't quite get on the audience right away. Most of the first act, the audience is pretty safe, but then the second act is when the splatter zone really is going to get soaked. So if you hit intermission and you haven't gotten bloody yet in the splatter zone, it'll happen. Anyways, there's tons of violence. Because of the nice theater that we were put in, the Illusion Theater, they actually had to put the splatter zone up on stage, and there's going to be a kind of a safe plexi layer behind it, from what I understand, so that we don't wreck the theater that we're in, but we don't rob the people in the splatter zone from getting a face full of blood. That's been one of my favorite moments in the movie series from the very beginning, is when they have a fire hose of blood shooting out of the wall. There's one point where he shoots the hand through the wall, and he has a moment of triumph, and then the wall just explodes with blood. Like there's maybe 6 or 7 holes, and it's all like a fire hose of blood coming out of that hole, and it's just hitting him right in the face, and then he slips around on it for a while. It's very Three Stooges, and that's a feel that is throughout the entire comedy. I also think it's why Evil Dead 1 is not as popular, because they hadn't quite integrated the comedy and the campy feel into it. As in Evil Dead 2, you can feel that Three Stooges influence, where you expect them to give a little nyuk 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 every once in a while because there's so much slapstick going on. We started out just expecting to come here for Perry's wedding and then the Minnesota Fringe, but then I got cast in this, so we were just going to be staying through November 10th or so, and then we realized that going back to New York just for a couple of weeks before Christmas wasn't going to be worth it, so we're staying through Christmas now. I have a very strange combination of jobs. I'm doing graphic work now on the side. I'll pick up singing telegrams every once in a while. The occasional promotional job where they'll just have you go out and sing about a fabric softener on the street corner for a while. Very, very strange income, but we seem to be breaking even based off of that.